Hello friends, in this video I will explain you about the seventh chapter. So the name of this chapter it is creating and managing organizational culture. So the first topic in this chapter is given as you can see on your screen, that is given what is organizational culture. If I zoom in, then it will be more clear. So now it is okay. So here given what is an organizational culture. Organizational culture is the set of shared values, norms that control organizational members' interaction with each other and with suppliers, customers and other people outside the organization. Now you can see it is a set of shared values. So what here is given? So organizational culture can be said as okay, first of all let me select this draw. Okay, which one it will be better? So if I select yes, okay, maybe this is going to be better. So here given this is what set of shared values and norms that control organizational members interaction, means how individual member, okay, means, or in other words we can say how members of the organization are going to interact. So those interactions are going to be decided by set of shared values and norms, and those set of shared values and norms will control the organizational members interaction with each other and with suppliers, customers and other people outside the organization. So organizational culture can be used to increase organizational effectiveness. So why? So many important reasons are there due to which we study organizational culture. So I will explain these all reasons. So why we study organizational culture. Okay. So first here given organizational culture can be used to increase organizational effectiveness, means how effective the organization is, that can be increased by improving organizational culture, the method, the way the people believe and the way people value different things. If we can change those things in accordance so that the effectiveness can be increased, then we say that is a better organizational culture. So this is because organizational culture controls the way members make decisions, the way they interpret and manage the organization's environment, what they do with information and how they behave. So these all things, come under organizational culture. Okay, organizational culture controls the way members make decisions, the way they interpret and manage the organization's environment and what they do with information, how they behave. Values are general criteria or a standard. So values here given, values are general criteria, standards or guiding principles that people use to determine which type of behaviors, events, situations and outcomes are desirable or undesirable. Okay. These values are general criteria or standards with which people compare their behavior with the standard behavior. So those standard behaviors or the guiding principle, we can call them as values. There are two kinds of values. So first given terminal and the second given instrumental. So what are terminal? So terminal value is a desired end state. So terminal means the end state value, end value. So it is a desired end state or outcome that people seek to achieve. So it is a value which people use to seek the outcome. So that's why here written a desired end state or outcome that people seek to achieve. So that is the terminal value. And second given instrumental value. So instrumental value is desired mode of behavior, means how people in the organizations are going to behave to achieve the goal. So this is the instrumental value, means the way people behave in the organizations are going to be decided by instrumental value, and this instrumental value is very important for terminal value, because terminal value it is the end state, desired end state, and instrumental value is desired mode of behavior. So, terminal value means end state, desired end state, and instrumental value it is desired mode of behavior. So, desired mode of behavior. An organization's culture thus consists of the end states that the organization seeks. Okay, now here two times I have written that organization seeks to achieve its terminal values and the modes of behavior that the organization encourages, its instrumental values. Okay, here that is what it is given. So, to the organization culture that consists of the end states. So, organization culture consists of two things. So, first it is instrumental value, the second it is terminal value. Okay. So, that is why here it is written instrumental values help the organization to achieve its terminal goals. The way people behave in the organizations are going to be helpful for achieving terminal goals. Organizational culture is based on relatively enduring values embodied in organizational norms, rules, standard operating procedures and goals. So, here given these all organizational norms. So, these are the main points. So, based on relatively enduring values means how and on what factors organizations values are based. So, these all things are given here, organizational norms. So, what are the norms, rules, standard operating procedures and goals. These all things are going to decide organizational culture. People in the organization draw on these cultural values. So, these are the values of which people in the organization use when they decide, when they deal different, when they make decisions in different situations. So, that is what here given. They also draw on these values when dealing with ambiguity or uncertainty both inside and outside the organization. So, whatever organization norms, rules, standard operating procedures and goals are there. So, these all things people consider or make concern of those things. So, when they are in ambiguity or uncertainty, when they are in difficult situation, then they try to draw from these all things. They try to draw from these all organizational norms. Okay. They want to decide, they want to behave according to these norms or rules. The values in an organization's culture are important shapers of members' behavior and responses to situations, and they increase the reliability of members' behavior. Now, you see here the values in an organization's culture are very important. So, why? Because the way the organization's culture is, so according to that the behavior of people working in the organization are going to be shaped. So, that is why a better organizational culture is better for effectiveness of the organization. If there is a better organizational culture, then people will behave in a better way, and accordingly the effectiveness of and efficiency of the organization will increase. Here given how is an organization's culture transmitted to its members. So, how means there is a culture in the organization. Okay. If any person is going to join that organization, if any person is going to work in that organization, then how the culture of the organization is going to transmit from the organization to the individual. So, that process here we are going to deal with. Organizational members learn pivotal values from an organization's formal socialization practices and from the stories, ceremonies and organizational language that develop informally as an organization's culture matures. Now, you see from these things, from organizational formal socialization practices. In all organizations, so many formal socialization practices are there, and from these formal socialization practices, individuals working in the organization can learn or can get organizational cultural values from the stories. From the stories of the culture, people can learn the culture of the organization. So, the first given, socialization and socialization tactics, means how individuals in the organization are going to learn about the culture of the organization. First given, socialization and socialization tactics. From the organization's perspective, the most effective way for newcomers to learn appropriate value is through socialization, which is the process by which members learn and internalize the norms of an organization's culture. So, in this process, what happens in socialization and socializational tactics, people learn organizational cultural values, and those values are going to be internalized by the people working in the organization. There are 12 socialization tactics that influence a newcomer's role orientation. The use of different set of, now here given 12 socialization tactics are given here, 12. So, which influence a newcomer's role orientation, means how newcomers, means the people who is going to join the organization, how that individual is going to be influenced by the organizational culture. So, that is going to be decided, or that is going to be influenced by these 12 socialization tactics. The use of different set of these tactics lead to two role orientations. Okay. So, when we use these 12 socialization tactics, then the result or the outcome will be two types of role orientation. The first type of role orientation, it will be institutionalized. The second type of role orientation which will emerge, that is individualized. So, what happens in institutionalized role orientation? So, in this case, here results. So, this institutionalized role orientation results when individuals are taught to respond to new context in the same way that existing organizational members respond to it. So, here the way existing members are responding to different situations, in the same way if newcomers are going to respond to different situations, then we can say that type of orientation, it is institutionalized role orientation. It encourages obedience and conformity to rules and norms. So, what it encourages? It encourages obedience and conformity to rules and norms. And the second one given, individual role orientation. So, here what happens? So, such type of individual role orientation results when individuals are allowed and encouraged to be creative and to experiment with changing norms and values, so that an organization can better achieve its values. Now, you see here, in case of institutionalized role orientation, people are expected to behave according to the behaviors of the existing members of the organization. But in case of individual role orientation, it is just opposite of that it is. So, how we can say this is opposite? Now, individuals are allowed and encouraged to be creative. Here individuals are allowed to be creative, means experiment new things, try to find out solutions of different problems in new ways, in new creative ways, so that organizational values can achieve better results. So, here two tactics here given. So, 12 tactics can be divided into two parts. So, the first given institutionalized orientation, and the second given here. So, this one it is the first one, sorry, this one it is the first one, and this is the second one. So, in institutionalized orientation, what are different tactics? Collective, formal, sequential, fixed, serial, and diversitude. So, these are different, these are the tactics which are used for institutionalized orientation. And individualized orientation results when we use individual informal way, okay, informal way to handle or to make people's behavior according to themselves only. So random, here the behaviors may be random or variable, disjunction, investiture. So these are different features of or you can say characteristics of individualized orientation, and these are characteristics of institutionalized orientation. Okay, the first it was about socialization, and socialization, this means how organizational culture transmit to its member. The first it was socialization process, socialization tactics. The second it is given about stories, ceremonies and organizational language. The culture you see here, the cultural values of an organization are often evident in the stories, ceremonies and language found in the organization, because people learn from these stories, ceremonies and languages. So that's why here cultural values of an organization can be transmitted to the newcomers by stories, ceremonies and languages found in the organization. Organizational stories and language of an organization are important media for communicating culture. Stories about organizational heroes provide important clues about cultural values and norms. Such stories can reveal the kinds of behavior that the organization values and the kinds of practices that the organization frowns on. It means what are different types of behavior which are acceptable in the organization, and what are different types of behavior which are not acceptable in the organization. So these all things can be transmitted to newcomers, or you can say the people who are going to start work in the organization. Studying the stories and language can reveal the values that guide behavior. So that's here it is given. The way, if we know the stories and the language of any organization, then we can understand so what type of behavior the organization values. Sometimes the very design of the building itself is a symbol of an organizational value. So the way, or you can say whatever different system of values are there in the organization, so these all things can be revealed, the way people behave, the way different structures of the building or so on. So from these all things organization's culture can be revealed. Okay, so from those things people in the organization can learn the culture of the organization. Where the organizational culture come from? So now you see, so from where organizational culture come? So organizational culture develops from interaction of 4 factors. So now you see organizational culture, so whatever it is, the culture of the organization that develops by the interaction, or you can say from the interaction of 4 factors. So what are these 4 factors? So first factor here given, the personal and professional characteristics of people within the organization. So what type of people are there in the organization, means the way, personal characteristics of people working in the organization will decide what type of culture will develop in the organization. Second here given, organizational ethics. So how organization behave, means how organization decide what is right, what is wrong, what is you can say the guiding principle the organization uses to make decisions about organizational stakeholders. So these all things come under organizational ethics. Property rights that the organization gives to employees. So what are different types of property rights? Means how much authority or how much you can say membership or how much ownership the organization gives to its employees. So that is property right that organization gives to employees. And the fourth one given, the structure of the organization, the way. Okay, this one it was the third one, and the fourth here it is given, the structure of the organization, the way organization is a structure. So from that structure also the culture develops. So these are the 4 ways from which organizational culture develop. So, first in detail we are going to study in detail of these all four factors which shape the organizational culture or which develop organizational culture. The first given here heading. Now, you can see here first yes, this is first one. First given characteristics of people within the organization, means the personal characteristic of the people working in the organization will decide what type of culture will develop in the organization. The ultimate source of organizational culture is people who make up the organization. In any organization, so many people used to work, and what are different personal characteristics of those people are. So, those personal characteristics will decide what type of culture in the organization will develop, whether that culture is going to be effective or ineffective, that is going to be productive or unproductive culture is going to develop. So, these all things are going to be decided by the personal characteristic of people working in the organization. So, that is why it is very important that to select people whose character means personal characteristic is good for effective performance of the organization. So, people may be attracted to an organization whose values match their own. So, now you see what type of people work in the organization. So, here similar kinds of characteristics generally used to attract each other. So, for example, here given people may be attracted to an organization whose values match their. So, whatever values people consider, means whatever way of behavior people consider important, if that type of behaviors also considered by the organization very important, then in that case those people are going to be attracted towards that organization. So, now here an organization selects people who share its values, means if there is any similarity between the characteristic of the person and the organization, then that particular person is going to work in that organization, and the organization also want that type of person whose characteristic is going to match with the characteristic of the organization. The founder of an organization has a substantial influence on the organizational initial culture. When I say the founder, whoever is the founder has a greater impact on the cultural values and norms, because they are because the initial now you see the founder of an organization has any substantial influence on the organization initial culture. Why? Because of his or her personal values and beliefs, means whatever his or her personal values and beliefs, according to that the founder will select initial members of the organization, and those initial members of the organization will shape the culture of the organization. So, that is why given founders set the scene for the latter development of culture, because they not only establish a new organization's values, but also hire its first members. So, that is very important, because the founders are very important for developing the organization culture, because they are the people who select initial members of the organization, and those initial members of the organization will decide what type of culture will be there and what type of culture will develop in the organization. Organizational ethics. To make decision, managers rely on ethical instrumental values embodied in the organization culture. Now, you see here managers rely on ethical instrumental values. Whenever any manager has to take any type of decision, then from where they get the values. So, they get values from which they can draw on for making decision. So, those things come from organizational ethics. So, what are ethical values? First get to know, then after it will be much clear. Ethical values and the rules and norms are an inseparable part of an organization's culture. So, why? Now, you see here ethical values. So, here ethical values means simply guiding principle according to which organizational members or managers are going to make decisions in different situations. or whenever they are in ambiguity or some any other difficult situation where clear cut solution or where clear solution is not possible to get, and then they have to try try one method. If they are able to find out the solution, then okay, and if not, then they will have to use another method. So what type of method they are going to use, so those are going to be guided by ethical values, because ethical values are nothing but the guiding principle according to which organizational members are going to make decisions. Personal and professional ethics also influence how a person will act in an organization. Now you see here, personal and professional ethics also influence. Here I am talking about the personal characters, organizational ethics. So personal and professional ethics also influence how a person will act in an organization. So an organization's culture is strongly affected by people who are in position to establish its ethical values. So what are different ethical values which organization uses? So those ethical values will come from the people who are going to establish ethical values or organization cultural values for the organization. Third, given the property rights. The values in organization's culture also stem from, now values in an organization culture also stem from how organization distributes property rights. Okay, means how organization distributes property right, that will also decide what type of what type of organization culture will develop. So the right, now you can see what is property right here. So the rights that an organization gives to its members to receive and use organizational resources. So how organizational members are going to use organizational resources, so those authority, or you can say those power, now the rights, the authority to use organizational resources come from property rights. So the way property rights are designed, that will give different organizational members how they are going to use organizational resources for better results. Distribution of property rights has a direct effect on the instrumental value that shape employee behavior. Now you see, distribution of property rights has a direct effect on the instrumental value that shape employee behavior and motivate organizational members. So what given, distribution of property rights, very important. Why distribution of property rights important? Because it is directly related to the instrumental values. So what is instrumental values? Instrumental values are values, or you can say the norms according to which people behave to achieve its terminal values or its end results. Different property rights systems promote the development of different cultures because they influence people's expectation about how they should behave and what they expect from their actions. So different property rights will result in different types of behavior of organizational members. Fourth, given organizational structure. So organizational structure also decide what type of organizational culture will develop in the organization. The fourth source of organizational cultural values here given is organizational structure. So what is that organizational structure? So the formal system of task and authority relationships that an organization establishes to control its activities. So you see here, the formal system of task and authority relationship that an organization establishes to control its activities. So how different organizational members are going to be related, means how they are going to behave with respect to each other. So that is going to be decided by the organizational structure. Different structure give rise to different cultures. Managers need to design certain, here given different structure. So that's we already know, means according to the structure different culture will develop. So that's why whenever managers are designing any organization, then they should keep in mind that what type of culture they want, and accordingly they should decide the structure of the organization. A tall and centralized central so now you see, in a tall centralized organization, people have relatively little personal autonomy. So now you see here, in a tall centralized organization, people have little personal autonomy, and desirable behaviors include being cautious. Now, so according to the structure of the organization, okay, where I was, I was explaining that the way the structure is designed for the organization, that will decide what type of organization culture will develop in the organization. So here given, in a tall centralized organization, people have little autonomy, and desirable behavior include being cautious, obeying superior authority, and respecting traditions. So this is a traditional type of structure, means this type of a structure will develop traditional culture. So now you can see, in a tall organization, what type of culture will develop? People are going to be cautious, so they will not make decisions until higher authority is going to give order, or they will not behave in their own, they will obey higher authority. So that's why here written, obeying superior authority and respecting traditions. So traditional values are going to be important in case of tall organization. So for tall organization, so that's why written thus, mechanistic structure is likely to give rise to a culture in which predictability and stability are desired in the states. So here mechanistic structure is likely to give rise to a culture in which predictability and stability are desired in the states. So that's why here now you see mechanistic structure. So one example given, mechanistic structure will give rise to culture in which predictability and stability are desired in the states. When the organization want predictable and stable in the states, then in that case the organization should use mechanistic structure. And second type of given, in a flat and decentralized structure, people have more freedom to choose and control their own activities, and desirable behaviors include. Now you see, in case of flat or decentralized structures, what type of behavior are there? So here behaviors are freedom to choose, means people are free to choose, means they are free to make decisions and control their own activities, means people are individually responsible for their own behaviors. So their behaviors are not going to be controlled by the higher authority in case of flat decentralized structure. So what type of behaviors in flat and decentralized structures are there? So being creative. If any organization values creativity, then in that case the structure of the organization will be flat and decentralized, courageous and taking risks. So if any organization want creative people and people who are able to take risk and who like to take risks to improve organizational effectiveness, then those organizations will choose flat and decentralized structure. So here given, an organic structure is likely to be now. So for this, for creative and taking risks, so that type of behaviors are going to be desirable in the states for the organization, then the organization will use organic structure. So what happens in organic structure? Innovation and flexibility are desired in them, means in organic structure, organization value innovation and flexibility. Okay, So innovation and flexibility are characteristic of organic structure. So if any organization want innovation, creativity, then that organization will use organic structure, and that organic structure is flat and decentralized. Can organization culture be managed? Now, how we can manage the culture of the organization? So, change now you see given changing a culture can be very difficult. So once a culture is developed in the organization, changing the culture of the organization, it is very difficult task and very tedious task, because those four factors means whatever four factors I have explained just now, so those four factors interact with each other, and the result of the resultant culture will be according to the interaction, means how those factors influence each other. Okay, according to the dominance of those four factors, the organizational culture will result. So that's why written changing organizational culture is very tedious work. Major alterations are often needed to change an organization's values. So now you can see, if you want to change organization's culture, then you need to change organizational values. Okay, so what are different things which the organization give importance? So those important things you will have to change. So you will have to shift those values for changing organizational culture. To change its culture, an organization might need to redesign its structure. So how culture can be changed, or how the culture can be managed? By redesigning its structure. Second, given revise the property rights. Third, given motivate and reward employees. So three things. So first way to change culture is redesign its structure. Second, given revise property rights. Okay. Third, given motivate and reward employees. Organization might also need to change its people, especially at the top management team. So one more thing, if you want to change the culture of the organization, then you will have to change the members of top management team. If you are able to if you are able to change top management team, then in that case it is possible that the organizational culture can be changed. To prevent an organization's culture from changing in ways that reduce effectiveness. Now to here you see what here written. In two ways organizational culture can be changed. First way, it may be the result, it may be ineffective, and the second, it may be that it is going to be effective. So whether the change it is going to be effective, or whether it is going to increase the effectiveness of the organization or decrease the effectiveness of the organization, so those things are going to be decided by, you see here given, top manager must design structure to offset the control problem. So if managers are changing the culture of the organization, then they should keep in mind that how to offset the control problem, because whenever there is shift in the culture and in the structure, and if there is shift in the culture, it means it is the change in the structure and change in the values of the organization. What are different things which the organization value? So those things will result in control problems. So many different types of control problems will come. So for that, managers should offset the control problems that occur with large size and complexity. So that's what here it is given. So in large and complex organizations, such type of control problems will arise if managers want to change the culture of the organization. Now social responsibility. Social responsibility refers to managers' duty or obligation to make decisions that nurture, protect and enhance and promote the welfare and well-being of stakeholders and society as a whole. So that is the social responsibility. Means behaving in such a way, using organizational resources in such a way so that that will promote and that will promote the welfare and well-being of stakeholders and society as a whole. Approaches to social responsibilities are given. So four approaches are given. First approach given obstructionist approach, second given defensive approach, third given accommodative approach, fourth given proactive approach. Okay. So what is obstructionist approach? What happens in that approach? So managers behave unethically and illegally. So that's what happens, and do all they can do to prevent knowledge of their behavior reaching other organizational stakeholders. So they do not, means managers do not choose to behave in socially responsible way. Okay, they do not. In obstructionist approach, managers do not behave in socially responsible way. In what way they behave? They behave in just opposite of that. So what is that? Instead they behave unethically, illegally, and do all they can to prevent. So now they behave, managers behave illegally or unethically in obstructionist approach, and they try to hide the knowledge of their behavior to reach to other organizational holders or the society as a large, at a large. Second given defensive approach, in this manner what they do, they stay within the law. It means they work according to the law and abide strictly within the legal requirements. It means here they use the legal principle too much to work, but they make no attempts to exercise social responsibility beyond what the law dictates. Means they, in case of defensive approach, they use law to protect themselves. They work according to the law, and beyond whatever law dictates, beyond that they don't behave, they don't use organizational resources. Third given accommodative approach. What happens in this approach? An accommodative approach acknowledges the need of support and social responsibility. Here now acknowledgement of the need to support social responsibility given. Accommodative managers agree that organizational members ought to behave legally, means should behave legally and ethically, and they try to balance the interest of different stakeholders. So now you can see whatever things I am underlining, so these all things are very important against one another. And you see first given acknowledges the need. So this is the first point to which we should consider under accommodative approach. And this, they acknowledge the need to support social responsibility. They support that organizations should use organizational resources in socially responsible way. Second given, they abide by the law. They work under the legal law. Third given, they try to balance the interest of different stakeholders of the organization. Managers cannot, sorry, that is a mistake. Now given, managers want to make choices that are reasonable in the eyes of society. Now you see, as they behave, managers use the organizational resources in such a way so that that is reasonable in the eyes of society, and want to do right thing when called on to do so. So they want to do right thing according to they want to do right thing. And the fourth one given proactive approach. So what happens in proactive approach? So here managers actively embrace the needs. Now they actively participate in socially responsible way. They try to find out ways so that they can do something for the society and go out of, and they go out, means proactive Managers go out of their way to learn about the needs of different stakeholder groups and are willing to utilize organizational resources to promote the interest not only to stockholders but other stakeholders as well. So it means they try to behave in such a way, they try to use organizational resources in such a way so that that is going to be useful to the society and different stakeholders to the organization. Okay, now here given last point, why be socially responsible, why we should behave in socially responsible way. So reasons are given. Workers and society benefit directly when managers and employee in the organization work in socially responsible way, because here government does not bear the cost of helping workers, rather than the organization bears the cost of helping society and stakeholders. Second given, if all organizations in a society were socially responsible, the quality of life as a whole would be higher. So the quality of life will also increase when all organizations are going to use or they are going to behave in a socially responsible way. Third given, companies that act responsibly toward their stakeholder benefit from increasing business and their profits rise. So now given companies that act responsibly toward their stakeholders benefit from increasing business and their profits rise. Why that happens? Why? If any organization behaves in a socially responsible way, then why it happens that their business increase and their profits also rise? So it is due to the reason that if any organization is going to behave in a socially responsible way, then the trust on the organization will increase by different stakeholders and they will support the organization, and in this way company will get benefit from that.